Thank you, Mayor. Can everybody hear? I don't have the microphone because we weren't sure if we would get feedback. This is our camera, speaker, mic. But everybody can hear okay? Okay. Welcome to our town hall. It's a great pleasure to have you here today. And I know we've got a few hundred online. 7, I think, 8, maybe a little bit more now. But this is a good event. If I can get one person to a town hall or to learn about the fire department, I think it's a great success. And I'm just glad to be a part of the fire department. I'm going to tell just a little bit about myself. I started in 1990 as a volunteer, part paid. I made $4.25 an hour. I thought it was the best thing ever. I could work a 24-hour shift and make $100. I tested 3 times to get hired, and finally the 3rd time they thought we better do something with this guy because he just won't go away. Some of the firefighters are like back there, but it's been the best job serving the community, getting to know the firefighters, and being able to be part of this great department. I was made the chief. I worked my way up through the ranks. 8 years ago, I was promoted to the chief, and I still ask myself, why didn't I just stay a battalion chief? No, but it's been a great opportunity to be the leader of this department and serve with such great, fine firefighters. So we're going to have questions along the way. If you have them, just raise your hand. But at the end, we will also have questions. So if you're online and you have a question, we will ask you to wait till the end. But if you have some here in the gallery, we'll go ahead and answer those while we can. We're going to show a short video, but before we do that, I want to introduce my staff. So we'll just start down here. Chris, if you'll stand up and your assignment.
My name is Chris Aston. I'm a battalion chief over C shift, and my assignment tonight is to talk about the firefighting aspect of our job.
Hi, I'm Mike Wollock, battalion chief over our training and medical division. I'll be talking about our medical responses tonight.
Eric Larson, I'm the battalion chief over B platoon, and I'm going to talk about some of our specialty teams.
Ryan McConaughey, deputy chief over operations. I'll be talking a little bit about history and then Sandy Fire culture.
I'm Lenore Corey. I'm a supervisor over the community risk reduction department, and I'll be talking about some of our community programs, school programs, and business programs that we offer.
I'm Robert DeCorder, battalion chief with the fire department, and I serve in the role of fire marshal, which oversees community risk reduction as well as prevention and investigations.
And I've got one filling in for one of my battalion chiefs, Chief Stubner. He's out of town and could not get out of his engagement. So we've got our wildland.
My name is Nick Ricopis. I'll be talking about the wildland urban interface and our response out of Station 33.
Okay, thank you. We'll just start the video.
Was there anything else that you wanted to hit on agenda? I think we got it all.
Nope, I think we got that. So we will, you guys can go have a seat. Well,
welcome to Sandy City, and thank you for participating in our stakeholder meeting. This is to provide us leadership of Sandy City with information and data. Welcome to Sandy City, and thank you for participating in our stakeholders meeting. The purpose is to provide us and the leadership of Sandy City with information and data. We use this to formulate an accurate community risk appraisal and to analyze our current response performance. This strategic planning process will create a vision for department growth that is consistent with the expectations of the community by evaluating our systems and programs. This will be accomplished by taking a transparent look at the fire department with the assistance of community representatives and feedback from surrounding agencies. We value the assistance and help from you, our community partners. To have a better understanding of our department and the city that we serve, we made this video to highlight some of the key aspects that may assist you today. This will hopefully help you and provide valuable insight during the SWOT analysis portion of our meeting. Sandy City Fire is an all-hazard fire department that responds to a variety of emergency calls. In 2021, Sandy City Fire Department responded on more than 8,500 calls for service. This includes medical, fire, rescue, hazmat, and other calls for service. Our service area is over 24 square miles and cover a unique blend of areas. Our residential neighborhoods are home to nearly 100,000 residents. The commercial and business districts have a constant flow of traffic and commerce, bringing visitors from all over the valley and the state. With the city's proximity to Little and Big Cottonwood Canyon, there is a constant influx of traffic through the middle of the city, heading towards hiking, skiing, camping, and other recreational activities. Sandy City also has other attractions, including Mountain America Exposition Center, Rio Tinto Soccer Stadium, home of the Real Salt Lake, the Southtown Mall, and the Hale Center Performing Arts Center, along with the Dibblesdale Park, to name a few. Dibblesdale Park is a beautiful 614-acre natural park running east through the middle of the city, leading towards Bell Canyon Reservoir, the waterfalls, and the Wasatch Mountain Range. The park is full of hiking, horseback trails, giving you the ability to quickly disappear into nature while practically staying in your own backyard. Sandy City Fire Department has 87 full-time employees who work in either combat or administrative service positions. The 76 combat personnel work out of 5 stations located evenly throughout the city. Our typical response consists of 2 or 3 firefighters on an engine and 2 on our ambulances. On a typical day, we will run 3 to 4 ambulances in the city, depending on staffing levels, and transport patients to a variety of hospitals located throughout the valley. Currently, our minimum staffing level is 18. This means a minimum of 3 of our stations would have 4 personnel on duty, and the other 2 stations would have 3 personnel. Due to the size and location of Sandy City, there are several areas of high risk or concern. Some of those areas include I-15 running through the west border of the city, various track lines, including Front Runner and Tracks, Mountain America Exposition Center, Rio Tinto Soccer Stadium, Hale Center Performing Arts Center, and Altaview Hospital. The freeway and tracks lines transport hundreds of thousands of people, as well as chemicals throughout the city. The commercial and business districts draw huge crowds and fans, increasing the need for the fire department to respond. Altaview Hospital is a community hospital offering many services, including an emergency room where we frequently transport patients. Additionally, Dibblesdale Park is an extensive urban wildland threat to the city, considering the Wasatch Mountain front above Wasatch Boulevard. We know that your valuable input will help us improve and become better. We look forward to many years ahead of working together with you and the department and organizations that you represent. Thank you again for your contribution to this process.
All right, thank you for being here tonight. That was a video that we shared in a community stakeholder meeting that we recently held to help with our strategic plan. And that was made by our city videographer, Parker Atkinson, and he's made several videos for us, and I think he does a great job, including this video. So we wanted to thank him for that. Get back to our slideshow here. This is a something that we're gonna do this. We're not doing the poll questions right now. This is just an explanation, Nick. So if you just go back to the PowerPoint. So what we're gonna do is later in the program, we're going to ask some questions and use a Poll Everywhere app. So if you, in preparation for later in the program, if you would like to get your smartphone out, your cell phone, and just text Sandy to 22333 and have that ready to go. As we get to that part of the program later, then you'll be all set. And we'll bring that up again and explain how to get in. But once you text the Sandy to 22333, then you should be set up as we hit the later in the program. So go ahead and do that. Any questions on? I'm going to move forward if you guys are good. You got it? We'll explain it again later. So what I'm going to do now is just give a brief history. We'll move through a program. We thought it appropriate to start by just kind of give a historical perspective of where we come from, where Sandy City comes from. I would be amiss to leave out this historical document that Captain Lincoln Paxman wrote for our department years ago. And several of the things and pictures that I will reference this evening come out of this book. And we wanted to thank him and give him the recognition for spending the time and dedication to go through and provide this. Each one of the members of the department got a copy of this, and we're very, very grateful for it. So just a little bit of history. Back in 1893, Sandy City was incorporated. And at that time, the office of the first fire inspector was created. Later, in 1908, the Sandy City Fire Department was created with our first chief and 21 members. And I forget, it's Eloy Hansen or Larson, I think was the first chief's name. But it consisted of him and 21 members. Later, we became a volunteer department and ran that way until 1973. We evolved into a combination department in 1973, paid and volunteer, later changing to a full-time department in 1991. And you can see in the photo here, several of the first ranks of volunteer firefighters with one of the newspaper clippings that are back in the back of a large fire that nearly destroyed a good portion of Sandy City, which I think those types of things, which are all located in this book, are just so interesting. Later, we got some pictures of some of the early apparatus, which the first was a hose cart. It was just two big wheels. You can see there on the far left, just two big wheels and then a handle. Attached to that was 600 feet of hose and 12 buckets. And most of the volunteers consisted of community members. Later in the middle there, you can see a picture of one of the first Model A apparatus. And then Model A apparatus to the far right here that was refurbed, and we still have that at the State Fire Museum. And sometimes we'll bring that out for parades and things of that nature. It consisted of 3 33-gallon tanks and a chemical engine housing pump that, when you combine the chemicals, would create pressure. And it produced 100 PSI stream reaching 70 feet, which is quite remarkable for the time. Later, we had some stations that started with as simple as just a shed where that handcart was stored. In 1917, they moved into a renovated school with 2 garages and 1 room for training. In 1941, the first station was located at 8744 South, 150 East, which consisted of 2 bays with training room upstairs, which is now the Sandy Museum. Later in 1974, a 3-bay station was built at 1220 East and 9400 South, just below where Altitude Hospital is currently located. In 1978, we had our first larger station, which is still in use, which is Station 33, kind of in the southeast quadrant of the city. You can see some pictures of the older apparatus or the older stations there. Okay, so in 1985, you see Station 31, the top left. Station 32 was originally built in 1985. What you're seeing there in the picture is a rebuilt model, which was in 2007. And then you've got the original Station 33 there on the top left, which is up on 2015 East and 112, 113th South. That was constructed 1978. Station 34 on 7th East, down in the bottom middle. And then Station 35 was built, and I was actually hired as a result of that station being built. And they hired 15 of us to staff that one additional station back in 2001. This is a map of all the different areas. If you kind of look to the left side where that orange color is, that's I-15, and that orange is the area of Station 31. Up on top in that light green is Station 35. The tan around the corner would be Station 32. The pink would be Station 33. And then the light blue would be Station 34, which we know we've met a couple citizens that live right behind that area there. So thank you for being here. The last slide that we have is just kind of where we've come. Historically, I mean, starting with just a simple hand cart that we were pulling to state, not we, but those people back were able to pull to the fires. And we've got 5 stations operating with, like Chief Klein mentioned, 87 employees. And this is an example of kind of just modern technology. It's a dashboard that was created by our finance department and some help from IT that gives us an up-to-date call volume per day and response time average. And it can give us, like I mentioned, up to date, up to speed times of our response, and it breaks it down to each individual station. So we've come a long ways, and I think we can be grateful for those that came before us as we can read through this historical book here that Captain Paxman made. So think that's what we've got for the historical portion. Or any questions on that before we move forward?
I just want one quick announcement for those that are online. We've got a lot of show and tell. We've got our trucks out front. We've got a lot of equipment in here. You've got plenty of time if you're close to come down and see in person our equipment and be able to chat and see the equipment outside. So if you'd like to come and join us, please do. Thank you. And
I have
Chief,
one question.
yes.
The response time, is there a target that the firemen try to, because 33, you got 6 point something of response time and others you have 3 point something and 5. So is there a target that you guys train on to reach?
So let me restate. The question is do we have a target time that we want to respond to? So when we're dispatched to when we arrive, we try to get there within a 5-minute period. There's some areas in Sandy because of a neighborhood residential, and 33 is one of those. There's really no major high roads. It's all neighborhoods. So we have to go a little bit slower. But our 5-minute is something we try to shoot for. What we can control though is how fast we get out of the station. So from the time the alarm goes off to the time we are in the trucks going out, we're shooting for 1 minute during the day, 15 seconds if we're out on the road, and after 10 o'clock, 1.5 minutes because they have to get their clothes on and then their gear. Those are the times we shoot for, and we're really close. So that's what we can control. The driving time is difficult because of the weather, the traffic, and the street conditions, if it's a residential or a 4-lane. So, but we're tracking really good. And those are NFPA standards that we try to follow.
Our next segment will be by our Battalion Chief, Chris Aston, talking about fire. Our fire response.
Hi, thanks for coming out and supporting us. Like Chief McConaughey mentioned, my name is Chris Aston. I'm currently over C Platoon as the battalion chief. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the glamorous part of our job, the part we're excited to go do, right? Now we're excited to do medicals too. This is the fun part of the job. This is the side of the job that is portrayed on Chicago Fire and things like that, that we really don't do a ton of. But when we do it, it's very low frequency, but high danger. Okay, so it's very important that we're trained up and we understand what we're dealing with on this aspect of the job. So as I mentioned, I think it said in the video, we respond on about 8,600 calls a year. And of those 8,600, 1,957 of those are fires. So we kind of divide our calls into 2 categories, fire and medical. And although there's a whole range of different calls we go on inside of those, really we look at just fire and medical. So 24% of our calls are on the fire side of things. The other 76% are on the medical side of things, which Chief Bullock talked about. So of some of those, we talk about structure commercials. So last year we responded on 60 structure fires or fires involving structures. We responded on, sorry, I got to find my numbers here, about 30 fires involving vehicles and about 47 were vegetation or wildland fires. So that comes out to about 137 for those of you that are mathematicians real quick at it. So like I said, it's not a side of the job we do a ton, but it's a very low frequency, high danger side of our job. So some of our apparatus, actually, let me talk about our personnel real quick. Chief Klein, or the video that Chief Klein did mention, we have 87, was it 87 sworn? Of those 87, we have 76 of those that are sworn into combat positions. And what I mean by combat positions are those are the guys that are in the stations, that are on the trucks, that are going on the calls day in and day out. So those 76 members are divided into 3 platoons, A, B, and C. So roughly 25 per platoon. So the battalion chiefs, myself, Chief Larson, and Chief Stubner oversee the different platoons, A, B, and C. And on those platoons, we have the 5 stations. And those 5 stations each have a captain assigned to them. And that captain really is the one that goes out on scene and ensures the safety of the crew. Day in, day out. They're the ones that go on every call, they go on every medical, every fire. The battalion chiefs, we go on kind of the more dangerous things, the like I said, lower frequency, higher danger things. Those captains are really important because they're there every call to make sure that their platoon members or their crew members are safe. Okay. I'm not going to get real deep into our apparatus because we have some down in the parking lot, and I'll let the crew show you the apparatus and kind of talk about that. But we do run 4 engines and then 1 truck out of our 5 stations. So what we do when we hire guys, every one of our firefighters that's in combat is certified to at least firefighter 2 and wildland firefighter, and they all hold various EMS certifications. So when we hire somebody, they go through a 16-week boot camp where they go and essentially earn all the certifications they would need to come out and do the job. So they get a good solid foundation in that camp to come and join us. And then we continue their training for at least another year. It's a career thing, but they're on probation for another year. And during that year, they continue to do training and check-offs and sign-offs, and their captain oversees that. So I want to talk a little bit about the gear we wear. So I'm gonna have Dustin come up. Dustin's one of our firefighters on C platoon. Dustin's currently in paramedic school as well. So he has been, about halfway through? Yeah, first semesters. So paramedic school is something they do in addition to firefighting. So Dustin's gonna put on the gear that we wear. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. And recently we did a Fire Ops 101 course. And some of our city council members got to come and wear this stuff. And what did you guys think? Pretty heavy, huh? Hot, heavy. It's a little claustrophobic, so they got to put this on and go into a fire or a training club. So it gives you kind of a new appreciation for the gear that the firefighters wear. Yeah, we'll walk through nice and slow. So when we talk about turnout time, this is what we're talking about. How fast can he get into that gear, get on the truck, and get out the door to the call that they're going on? And this needs to be done in less than a minute. This is what we train for. This is what we shoot for. We're not going to time him today because we're going to talk about it as he does it, but that's what we shoot for. Less than a minute into that gear and then on the truck and out. So this gear's specially designed. It's designed to withhold or withstand heat inside of a fire. But that being said, it only withstands about 500 degrees for about 5 minutes. So we do need to be cautious and we do need to know what we're doing. So that's why firefighters do a lot of crawling on their knees. It's because we go from 300-400 degrees down here all the way up to 1200 degrees. Yeah, why don't you come over here? Okay, so Dustin's going to start getting ready. He's going to show you. This is what we wear in the station every day. So to go to a fire and a structure, we need to get into our gear. So Dustin's going to put on his hood. That protects his ears and his head. He's going to slide into his boots. Get his pants on.
The boots are always in the pants.
Boots are always in the pants. Yep, that makes us faster. That keeps us in line with that 1 minute goal we're shooting for. So you can see Dustin wears suspenders because we spend a lot of time crawling around, searching, stuff like that. So it's important that we are able to keep our gear on our body. Then he's going to throw on his coat. Okay. And Dustin's goal is to make sure that he can go get off the truck at a fire scene and walk out and be ready to go in a fire. Because we never know what we're going to encounter. We could show up and it could be nothing, or we could show up and they could tell us there's people inside the house. So we got to be ready to go. So the next thing Dustin's going to do is he's going to put on his air pack. And all this gear together weighs about 55 pounds. So imagine carrying a small child around on your back the whole time when you're fighting this fire. It's kind of, I think my 8-year-old is wearing 55 pounds. So imagine carrying an 8-year-old around with you on your back while you're trying to fight this fire. Okay, inside this tank, a lot of people think it's oxygen, but it's actually not. It's just compressed air like we're breathing right now, and it's compressed into this cylinder. So if you'll turn around, Dustin. So this bottle holds 4,500 PSI of air, but when we go to work and we're breathing hard, this bottle will only last us about 20 to 25 minutes. So it's really important that we get there and we get to work and we know what we're doing. So when people are outside their house telling us what your house looks like inside, that is the best help we can get. If you can say, you know what, the bedroom was up on the right, or the fire was in the bedroom in the back of the house, that helps us a lot because we can just go right into where we need to go and start going to work. Okay. Recently, we made a nice addition to these SCBAs. So we have what we call a thermal imaging camera built into our SCBA. So it used to be when we started, and Scott probably remembers the big thermal imagers we carried, right? The helmet one, and then we had a big one you'd carry, and they weren't real reliable. The batteries didn't last very long, and they were big and bulky. So we actually got a grant to put these thermal imaging cameras inside. So if he needs to, he can pick this little tool up right here and look through the smoke, see what he needs to see. So that is an awesome addition to these packs for us. Helps keep our firefighters safe. So now Dustin's all geared up, ready to go. So next thing he would do is he would go take a hose line off the truck. They would charge that full of water, and he would make entry into the structure and hopefully put the fire out very quickly or save somebody or whatever. So thanks, Dustin. I appreciate it. If you see a firefighter dressed like that crawling around your house, don't be scared. Go to them. Help them get you out. Anything you can do to help us. What else did I miss on the gear? Can you guys think of anything? Okay. So my map. Okay.
We're just going to the next slide. Next slide. Is it working again?
So like I said, we respond to a whole array of things under fire and medical. And Chief Larson's going to talk a little bit more about some of those fires that, or those calls that fall under the fire umbrella. But this is our heat response map. So this is our fire events for 2021. So you can kind of see around the city where we respond to quite a bit, and it's pretty much consistent around the whole city. So anything more on that, Chief?
No, but that map is also located there. If you guys in the medical over there, if you guys were curious about that, that's it.
Okay. Awesome. Any questions that I can answer for you guys right now?
What is the most common cause of fire?
Most common cause of fires? That's a good question. Probably something the fire marshal would be able to answer a little better than me.
Yeah, he's going to talk about that.
So he'll probably hit on that because he does all our investigations, and that's part of their job is to determine what caused the fire. So I'll let him hit on that a little bit more. Is there any other question about firefighting itself? So we strive to get to your house in 5 minutes or less. And we strive to get out the door in a minute or less. So that's what these guys are shooting for day in and day out when they're on call on the trucks. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
He said he was halfway through his training. How many weeks of training does he have?
I'll actually get on
Yeah,
that.
I'll let Mike, he's going to talk about medical right now. Perfect. Thank you.
My props up with me here. We'll just have them with me.
Still like hop on there.
You want to jump on? Okay, perfect.
That stuff looks familiar.
Seen it a few times, huh?
I can, if you want, you can.
Here, I'll run up for a minute. So, okay, Mike Bullock, Plan Chief over Medical and Training Division. I gotta stand over here. I gotta remember where the camera's at here. So within Sandy Fire, we just talked about the structured fire aspect of it, right? Something that's low frequency, high hazard for us. The thing that we're doing day in, day out, running 10, 11, 12 calls each station, the majority of the time are medical calls. So every firefighter in Sandy City and across the Salt Lake Valley is certified to what's called an emergency medical technician. We have different levels of that, starting off at EMT Basic. EMT Basic is the first level that everybody starts off with, and that's about 144 classroom hours worth of medical training. First aid, utilizing oxygen and stuff like that. We can then go up to what's called an intermediate or an advanced, and they wear the green patches. They get an additional 60 hours of training, which covers putting advanced airways in. When we talk about paramedic school, we actually jump up to 1,280 hours, I believe is what it is, of classroom and clinical time, both in hospitals and with other fire agencies. So when you see the paramedics, they have more advanced training in cardiology, reading EKGs, using more advanced medications during our responses. So currently we are at, and I just forgot the number off the top of my head, if you can help me, how many paramedics are we at now? I think we're in the 40s.
Yeah. 40.
40. I lost count in my head there for a second. So I had to reach out to the audience for my answer today. So, so yeah, just over 40 of our individuals are paramedics. We ensure that every apparatus and every station is staffed with a minimum of 2 paramedics for every 48-hour shift that we're on. So there's always an advanced life support unit that's coming there. Now, we talked about, and Chief Aston already mentioned that, like I said, the majority of our calls we're running are medical calls. Some of our call types are really high frequency call types that were going on are breathing problems, especially with COVID over the last couple of years, right? That gets classified under a breathing problem. So we're going a lot on those issues. Traumas, especially with the goalie and everything like that, we deal with a lot of trauma, especially we're going to get into the warm season. So we're going to start seeing people out on motorcycles and bicycles a lot getting more. So we'll see some of those traumas. And then cardiac issues. That can be anything from chest pain with an active heart attack to full cardiac arrest. So when we respond on these calls, when we're dispatched out, we are actually dispatched out. When you call 911, you start giving your name. The first thing they ask you is your address, and then what's your emergency. With that information right there, we are actually dispatched out before you even start answering the questions of what actually is going on with you. So they start toning at our station. We know that we're going on a cardiac problem. We're going to this address. As we're driving there and you're answering more questions with 911, we're getting more details in our apparatus as we're responding to your house. When we arrive, this is always the biggest question, is why do we come with an ambulance and a fire engine, right? That's always, everyone kind of always gets confused with that. That goes back to personnel. We have 2 or 3 individuals on the fire engine and 2 people on an ambulance. We're all certified up to the emergency, at least basic, and then you'll have 2 paramedics minimum. When we respond into your house, like I said, we're dispatched before we may even know what the entire story is. So we send the entire crew out there, because in a cardiac arrest event, it's going to take someone to protect an airway, take multiple people to switch out CPR, take somebody to document everything that's going on. It takes somebody to push medications. It takes another person to run our cardiac monitor. And then we have somebody that has to talk with the family. So when you start adding all those up, you're getting to 5, 6, 7, 8 people. We'll actually dispatch out a second engine just to come help on those cardiac arrests, because that is it is a life-threatening emergency, right? Same with diabetics, right? We talked about that with there. So we're going to send everybody there, make sure we have everybody. If we get there and it's more of a minor call, we can then release the fire engine off. We can have the ambulance take the patient to the hospital, okay? So we respond to any hospital in the valley. We've even gone as far down to Provo. We've had that. We accommodate where patients want to go to the hospital in most cases. But in those serious life-threatening calls, we may have to make a determination based on the hospital, what they have to offer. So whether we have to go to a cath lab for a heart attack, or we have to go to a trauma center, which would be like IMC in Murray or University of Utah. So sometimes we get, and those decisions are based off agreements we have valley-wide with medical professionals, doctors, and the hospitals to make those determinations where we're going to respond to for those events. So we carry a lot of medical equipment. They showed a little bit of our fire equipment on there. This I brought in for you guys today just to kind of see what a standard cache of equipment that we're going to bring in here. First off, we have an airway bag. This thing's full of all of our oxygen, our masks, advanced airway tubes to help somebody breathe if they can't control their own breathing. In here, or in this right here, this is our cardiac monitor. So you guys have heard of an AED, seen AEDs around. This is an AED It's also a manual defibrillator where us as paramedics can actually decide when to shock instead of the machine telling us when. It does EKGs like you do in stress tests or 12 leads like you do in the hospital. So we can do one on scene and see what's happening. And then straight from this, we can transmit that to the hospital and they can have their team ready at the hospital before we even arrive. So they can be all ready to go. And then it does our blood pressure. If you ever come out to any community events, we'll check your heart rate and your pulse ox and your blood pressure for you. This machine does all of that for us. So it does a whole lot all in one. So probably one of the most important things that we bring in. We bring in this big orange box every time. This big orange box is full of all of our life-saving medications. So we'll have stuff for diabetics, which is like B50, or which is basically like a sugar water for an IV. We'll have epinephrine. If your heart's not beating, you can actually get your heart like chemically to start beating. We have Narcan. So I know overdoses and opiate overdoses are a big deal in our society. So we carry plenty of Narcan in case we encounter any overdoses. We also carry stuff like IV starts and bandaging and stuff like that as well. Our gurney itself, we have all of our ambulances equipped with these gurneys here, and I'll show you what they are. Is they're actually a automatic gurney that we can lift our patients up and down with, up in the back of the ambulance. Our investment in this was twofold. One, for our safety. The number one injury to firefighters is their career back injuries, and repeatedly lifting people up and down out of ambulances. And the other part is for patient safety, because when you're manually lifting with 3 or 4 people to lift the gurney up and put it in, there's more of a risk of it tipping or falling, right? So much more sturdy platform. And the ambulance actually has a system that actually pulls it, and actually lifts it up and puts it in the back of the ambulance for us, just for more safety for us and the patients. See if my clicker will work here. Yeah, it keeps going to sleep. Can I go to the next slide? Okay. Sorry, technology always works for us really great. So there we go. So there's just some pictures of some of those calls that we go on. We do carry the masks for the puppies and dogs. We have those in all of our ambulances, and I have personally seen them used twice. They work great. So there's our drug box full of stuff. There's our numbers there, medical and fire for a total call. So you can see we run quite a bit more medical calls than fire calls. Our response map, you can look at that on the side as well. You can see that pretty much follows our population density across the city, right? It doesn't matter where you're at in the city, your chances of having a medical emergency for calling are pretty much the same, right? So you're going to see those distributed out according to their population density. And if you have any questions afterwards, you want to look at the map, let me know. That's what I have for medical. Do you guys have any questions that I can answer right off the bat? Yeah.
For people training to be paramedics, do they just go to like a college like UVU to do their paramedic school, or? Yeah, so
to qualify for paramedic school, you have to at least have your EMT basic already. And then for paramedic school, Utah Valley University, UVU, it's got a large paramedic program. Weber State actually has the first paramedic program that ran in the state of Utah, and they're still operating now. University of Utah has an affiliation with one. And then there's also a couple private institutions across the state that teach them as well. But usually it's equivalent to a bachelor's degree in credit hours. It requires some prerequisites like math, science, and anatomy and physiology. Okay, so any other questions I can answer? Perfect. Okay. My friend Nick Prokopis will be up next here.
My name is Nick Prokopis. I'm a firefighter up at Station 33, 114th and 2000 East roughly. At the beginning of 2022, as a department, we decided to take Station 33 and give it the focus of addressing wildland fire, wildland urban interface within Sandy. So in addition to running our fire and medical calls, we are working on our CWPP, which is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And it also goes with the Ready, Set, Go program. So what that is, it's broken down in about 3 categories. prevention, preparedness, and mitigation. So, and the first part is community. So us as a fire department in the city of Sandy, we want to work with the community as a whole to try and do our parts to prevent that wildland fire from becoming something catastrophic. I'm sure you've seen them in the news. Doesn't really seem like there's a wildland season anymore. It's just kind of year round, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, down South. It's a year round event, and it's something that we need to be more prepared for here in Sandy. So what we do, we go out to the community. We have our Wildland Community Outreach Day coming up in May, and we kind of focus on that prevention part where we offer education to the citizens. What you can do as a homeowner that lives in an urban interface area. So if you border up to Dimpledale Park or on the east bench of Sandy, your homes are more of a threat when a wildland fire happens. So defensible space, fuel mitigation, proper storage of flammable materials, that kind of thing. And like I said, we're going to work together on a lot of this. So we go out into the public, we want to be seen, and we want to give the citizens that opportunity to learn and grow, with us so that we don't have something catastrophic. With our community outreach day, we'll also have a number of other agencies that will show up if we have an incident. Draper, our bordering agencies, UFA. It'll be a all hands on deck effort if something were to happen. And then back to our deployments. So that's an opportunity for us to send personnel and an engine, whether it's out of the state of Utah or somewhere up like Farley's that we've had in these last couple of years. We've sent crews to California. And what a deployment is, it's basically 2 weeks that you go to California, you represent Sandy, you go and work for California to help mitigate some of their large wildland fires. I think we've sent multiple crews over the last 3 years. And it sounds rough, but we kind of get to piggyback on their fire and educate ourselves and train our guys on how to handle something like that or how to avoid something like that for when it happens here in Sandy. Our guys will go out, they'll spend a couple weeks, see how those large fires are handled, how they fight them, and then come home and hopefully address some of those concerns back here. I brought some of our gear. As you saw in the turnouts, I think they said 50 pounds or so. When you're fighting wildland fire, it's upwards of 16-hour days, 14 days in a row, hiking up the mountain. So our stuff is not as cumbersome. It's all fire resistive, lightweight stuff. So you have your standard hiking boots. Obviously we're hiking around, doing quite a bit. You have your Nomex yellow t-shirt, which again, lightweight you're gonna thank yourself when you're out there for those long days in the summertime. We have our line gear. So these packs are meant for a short stay, light work around the engine. In this right here is what's called a fire shelter. And what that is basically a last ditch effort if we get into a situation that we can't get out of. You may have seen them before, kind of looks like a baked potato when you're inside of it. And that's designed to quickly deploy in a worst case scenario, right as the flame front moves over, you have a last chance to protect yourself. Granted, we never want to be in that situation. They have worked, they have saved firefighters, but ultimately we don't want to be in that situation. We want to work safe and get everybody home. Our hand tools for digging line, it's not like fighting a house fire right in the city because you don't always have water. So sometimes it's a chainsaw and a hand tool, and you're going to dig for miles, hours, whatever it may be, to try and get a handle on a wildland fire. The other tool in Dustin's hand is a drip torch. It's one of those tools that we love to use, but can be somewhat dangerous. It's that fighting fire with fire that you've heard. Sometimes the best case scenario is to start a fire and work towards the large fire. And we can do that safely. Here in Sandy, we would never want to use that, hopefully. But some of these larger incidents, that's the only way to get a hold of things is to kind of try and meet those two flame fronts together to put things out. So I think that's all I have for the show and tell portion. Love to answer any questions if anybody has any. Okay. I'm not sure who's up next.
Hello, folks. Thanks for coming out. My name is Eric Larson. I'm the B shift battalion chief. What you've seen so far is pretty much the majority of the calls that we run on. However, we all are a all hazards fire department. So basically any emergency that comes in, we have trained personnel that can respond. So what I'm going to talk about is some of the specialty services that we have. We have some specialty teams. The first one I'll talk about is technical rescue. I also am fortunate enough to live in Sandy City. And one of the reasons why I love living here is the proximity to the mountains. And then also the Dimpledale Park, which to me, having that access to the mountains makes Sandy super special. However, there are some hazards that go along with having the mountains close by. One of the more frequent rescues that we have to perform is a technical rescue where folks have gotten into trouble up by Bell Canyon. So either they're hiking up to the waterfall and fall over the waterfall, or just get hurt, injured on the trails. So we have to have a way to get it down, get those people down. It's very labor intensive. Getting this, so this is a titanium Stokes. It's an awesome piece of equipment. We actually carry this up on our backs. This Stokes breaks down, put it on in a backpack and carry it up the mountain. Same with the wheel. We have a special backpack that we can put that wheel on, and another person can carry that up. It looks like, on this flat ground that it'd be really easy to move somebody around, but when you're up on the boulders, that in those boulder fields that we have up there by the waterfall, it takes a lot of people to move somebody down in that Stokes basket. We work very closely with Salt Lake County Search and Rescue, DPS, Department of Public Safety. We can utilize their helicopter. Typically, if we have somebody that's up by the waterfall, if we can utilize the helicopter, we can typically get them down in about 2 hours. If we have to take them down fully by the Stokes, if we can't get the helicopter up there, it turns into more like a 4-hour operation. And it takes a lot of people to get somebody down. We'll belay people down. The station that we have that has the technical rescue personnel that are rope rescue is up at Station 32. So they're kind of close by to the Dimpledale Park, and then also the trails going up Bell Canyon, Rocky Mouth, and Bonneville Shoreline Trailer, and then Dimpledale Park. Those are the most common areas that we have to utilize this technical rescue. And the whole time when we're focused on this, then we'll have to have a separate ambulance that'll be standing by, so that when these guys get the patient down, they can load them up and make transport decisions. So that's primarily the biggest tool that we use in that technical and mountain rescue. The next thing I'll talk about is extrication. So we have approximately 20 vehicle extrications a year. We have 5 people that are extrication technicians on each platoon. And these are the tools that we use, spreaders and cutters. And then we have, so they work hydraulically. Then we have a hydraulic power unit, looks like a generator. And we hook this equipment up with the power unit, which functions with a gas motor, then runs it hydraulically. The trick about extrication and what makes it complicated is that typically when you're pulling stuff apart, you're pressing against those pieces. Well, we have a human being in there and a human body. So we have to work on peeling the vehicle away from the person. So you can imagine when you're using heavy tools that have an unbelievable amount of power that we can cut cars apart, we have to be really careful of not further injuring those patients. Unfortunately, it is very scary for patients that are pinned in a vehicle. So we have 3 stations that we have extrication gear on. We do have one station that is the specialty station for extrication, station 34. But all of our guys are skilled and have the knowledge on how to use this equipment. And for example, like 34 is our specialty station, but on Saturday, which is not uncommon, we had an extrication, and frequently, if you have one extrication, you have 2 extrications. So we had 2 extrications going on at the same time with the 2 vehicles. This is what's most people refer to the jaws of life. If you've heard of that on TV. Any questions about the extrication?
How heavy are those? I know that they're making it look easy.
How do you know?
Yeah, they're probably ready to put it down. What do you think? 40 pounds?
30, 40 pounds.
Yeah, 30, 40 pounds. Yeah, so we average about 20 extrications a year. Also in extrication, those people are also rope rescue certified. So they can respond on high angle rope rescues as well. Thanks, guys. Another specialty that we have is hazmat. We are the designated decon hazmat team for the Valley. And basically what that means is that anywhere in the Valley, if people have been exposed to chemicals, leak, then they can call us out where we have a trailer that has a shower built into it. We could do dry decon or we could do wet decon and get those chemicals off of those people. The hazmat station is station 35. And they actually respond to a lot. We had about 100 hazmat calls last year. However, the most common hazmat call is a natural gas. But we have monitoring equipment, and basically at that point, the critical thing is to shut the power or to shut the gas off to the resident or the business, and then evacuate the area. We get the gas company obviously out, and then we monitor the area for any kind of explosive environment. So that's station 35. We also have, a high threat of hazmat exposure with I-15 and the railroads. So we do have a high threat in Sandy with transporting so much hazardous materials. Another big thing about hazardous materials is keeping it out of the environment. So we carry stuff so we can keep hazardous materials from going into the storm drains, even if it's a ruptured fuel tank or oil or ATF or some other chemical from a car accident or from a truck. We really work hard to keep that out of our storm drains and out of our water. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Rescue Task Force. Rescue Task Force has just been around since 2017. Unfortunately, it's become a necessary team across the country. And basically what it is we have formed these Rescue Task Force teams where we will work with the police department and we'll have force protection. So we'll get 3 or 4 guys together and then we'll assign them a police officer. And instead of in the old days, what they used to do was police would wait for, if they had an active shooter event, some kind of mass casualty, police would wait until they had a bunch of guys there before they would make entry. That world's kind of changed, and now police officers will not wait and they'll go towards the gunfire. And what we've determined is that we can save people that have been wounded by treating them instead of waiting, and we can get folks in there sooner to start doing bleeding control is the #1 thing that we can do in an active shooter event. So what we do is we roll up on the scene. Police will be going towards the sound of gunfire. Then we'll have a unified command working together with the incident commander from fire and working with the incident commander from police. We'll form these teams where we'll get firefighters together. We'll put them with an officer, and then we can work in the warm zone. So we're not going to send these guys into where there's active gun battle going on. But if it was in a school, we can go into parts of the school where it's been determined that it's safe to make some entry, but it requires some specialty equipment. We've got some ballistic gear here, helmets and vests, and then we carry a lot of bleeding control agents. So the biggest thing is tourniquets, and then we have hemostatic gauze too for injuries that you couldn't put a tourniquet on. So that's Rescue Task Force. Hopefully we don't ever need it here, but we train on it with our police department. We fortunately have an awesome police department that we train with. We're prepared for those incidents. We also have a SWAT team that we're involved with Sandy Fire. And we have some SWAT medics. Those guys get embedded with the SWAT team with police. They go to the police academy, and those guys actually work in the hot zone with the SWAT team. That's pretty much all I have for the specialty teams. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, so from the Fire Marshal Division, I've got the three best looking guys in the fire department, as you can see. We actually call ourselves kind of the backseat type of guys, because we are the guys that you don't see out in the trenches. You don't see us out on the extrications. You don't see us when everything's happening, because we deal with the kind of the back scenes type of things with the fire service. So I oversee both the business inspections, hydrant inspections, as well as plan review. Also deal with firework restrictions every year. And we deal with fire investigations. I oversee two people in my division, Gerald Strebel, Deputy Fire Marshal, and Kurt Nielsen. He's our fire inspector. And then we also oversee the public education side of the fire department from my division. So as Chief McConaughey stated, back in the late 1800s, prior to establishing the fire department, the very first position in the fire service for Sandy City was the position of fire inspector. The fire inspector's main responsibility was to go around the city and to find areas that might be a fire hazard, that there might be issues, and try to prevent the fires from happening. It's the exact same thing that we do today in the Fire Marshal Division. Our threefold mission of the fire department, very first, is to prevent emergencies through positive code enforcement and public education. And so that's what we continue to do. We don't have all the shiny toys and everything that you see here that the guys use out on the trucks. If I were to bring show and tell, I would have brought you a library of books, because that's what we use in the Fire Marshal Division. We have codes that dictate how buildings are built. Many of you probably came into this building today not realizing that there were fire sprinklers or fire alarms, or where your closest exit was. Those are the things that the Fire Marshal Division actually looks at and we review day in and day out. We oversee the inspection of, flip to my numbers here, the inspection of 3,500 businesses every year. And our fine fire crews, they go out and do those, and they go out and visit every single one of those businesses. We also oversee the annual crew hydrant inspections. So once again, our fire crews that are doing those business inspections, they're also out there doing hydrant inspections. They do those twice a year, where the first time during the summertime, which they're in the process of doing right now, They flow every fire hydrant within the city to make sure that it has water, to make sure that the fire hydrant's working, so that when it's needed, it's there and operating. And then in the winter time, they drive back through and visualize every single fire hydrant in the city to make sure that it hasn't been hit, to make sure that that it's not leaking, and that we have a problem with the fire hydrants. As I said, our job basically deals with code books. We have several code books, as well as our National Fire Protection Association standards, which is well over 1,000 standards that we can research through to determine how things are supposed to be built. Everything from how a fire sprinkler system is installed in the building, to how a fire alarm system is installed into a building, to what is the standard for lighting a fireworks show for the July 4th fireworks show that we do here in the city. So we are constantly researching, but not only are we researching the current codes, we also have to research or maintain all of the codes all the way back to when the code started back in the early 1970s. And so if we have a business in Sandy City that was built back in 1984, and they have a fire code issue, we don't go off of the current code. We have to go back into that 1984 code and be able to determine if they're meeting code or not meeting code. So a lot of our stuff deals with the legal side of things and interpretation, and interpreting law, and being able to make sure that not only our citizens are safe, but also making sure that our firefighters are safe. A lot of the things that we put into place now is so that our firefighters, when they go on a fire, they have stuff that's going to protect them. They have stuff that they can control the building with and be able to put the fires out easier. So a lot of times these guys will hear me say, you know, let's not have a fire tonight, because that's my main job and my main responsibility. And I know that sometimes they look at me like, Chief, that's what we're in the business for, is to fight fire. And I say, I get that, but let's try not to have any fires tonight. We also do investigations. We investigate every fire that happens in Sandy City. We have to investigate. So we've got a system worked out with our fire captains and battalion chiefs that are on duty, that if they can determine a fire pretty early into the fire, what the cause was, that it was an accidental type fire, generally they just make communication with the fire investigator. But we investigate probably about 25 to 30 fires a year between the three of us out there with fire investigations. To answer your question, one of the #1 causes of fires that we find within the city is electrical fires. And the reason being for that is because a lot of people don't realize that their homes need to be maintained just like their car needs to be maintained. And so you get electrical wires that loosen up within outlets, within lights, within your own circuit breakers, or we go out and we do some of our own wiring without hiring an electrician. And we tend to have a lot of electrical fires. Following close behind that is kitchen fires. So those are kind of our top 2 fires that we have. But we investigate every fire within the city. We investigate it for whether it's an accidental fire or whether it's an arson fire. If it's an arson fire, then we work very close with our police department, and our police department takes care of the crime side of it. We will find the origin and cause, and then we will let them know what our belief is as far as the fire goes, and then they go and pursue the criminal side of it and do the arrest and work with us on that kind of stuff. We also do fireworks. As I said, it's a hot topic every year, but every year we have to go through and review our firework restriction areas, our firework restriction maps, and make sure that they meet current law. Everything that we do within the Fire Marshal Division really falls under law. And so one of the interesting things about our job, which a lot of people don't realize, is that we sign off on an awful lot of things. We sign off on plan reviews, we sign off on sprinkler plan inspections, we sign off on fire alarm inspections, we sign off on firework restrictions. And so we put our signatures on an awful lot of things. But one of the things with our signature being on all this paperwork is that that signature lives with Sandy City for the rest of my life. And so if I don't do my job appropriately, there's a possibility that I could come back, somebody could come back and actually civilly sue me as the fire marshal because I made an error in my review process of a building, a fire sprinkler system, a fire alarm system. So we're very careful and very cautious. It actually took myself, and I know Deputy Fire Marshal Strebel, a little bit of time to realize, because when you're on the trucks and you're doing the emergency stuff, things have to happen pretty quick, and it has to happen pretty systematically. When you get into the office and you're dealing in the fire marshal's office, things slow down quite a bit, and we have to take our time and we have to make sure that it's right. Because when you walk into a building, whether it be a Walmart, whether it be Sandy City Hall, whether it be your favorite restaurant within Sandy City, whether you're amongst the 20,000 people that are at a RSL game, if a fire happens, you're expecting that we've done our job and that you're able to get out of there safe and that you're able to go home to your family at night. And our firefighters likewise, when they go on that fire, are hoping that we did our job so that they can go home to their families the next day. So that's pretty much your fire marshal division. Is there any questions? Yeah.
So you mentioned about the electrical is the biggest, right? So how let's say how many years, how often should the electrical be checked out?
So definitely anytime that you have electrical work done, it should be checked by a certified electrician. And then I would say anytime that you have where you notice a problem, like if you plug in plug into an outlet and you see sparks, you should have your electrical checked out. If you have lights that are dimming in and out, you should have your electrical checked out.
So what about in the case where the bulb gets loosened by itself? And then I thought it would be, you need a new bulb, maybe the bulb is burned out. But then, you turn it a little bit and it comes on. Does that need to be checked out? It is on fan.
Well, if the bulb has loosened itself, then that's fine. But if it's not the bulb being loose, then you'd have to have your electrical checked out.
How would a bulb loosen itself?
Well, sometimes there's vibrations and stuff like that happen. So whether it be trucks driving by or things like that, so.
And the heat itself on the end of the bulb, just that warms up and can cause it to
Expand,
shrink and
contract.
expand. And just that will cause it to kind of loosen up.
So going back to my question about checking the electrical state of the house. So let's say a house is built in let's say 1985, let's say. Is there like a number of years, like 30 years later or 40 years later? Oh, get somebody to check the whole entire.
Yeah, not really. There's not really a standard for that. And so it's really just, like I say, if you start having problems with your electrical, then I would definitely get somebody in. And that's what most people end up missing, is that they might have had a spark and they thought, oh, that was weird. And they just let it go, but then they have a problem.
You mean when if you don't know that it happened and you put the plug in, that's when it will cause a fire?
No, not necessarily then. It could be somewhere else down the road. But what I'm saying is that people will have issues that they won't attend to it and fix it. Kind of like your car, when the check engine light comes on and you just let that motor keep running, and then you have a problem with your car later down the road.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm asking so many questions, but let's say the plug, you got 4 sockets, okay?
Mm-hmm.
One of them does not work. So the whole entire thing needs to be checked out.
Yes.
Okay. For whatever reason, it dies by itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Any electrician that you were to call would come out. I know I hear on the radio all the time, for $29, we'll come out and do a kind of an electrical inspection. We'd be happy to help you, after you have more questions and give you some ideas.
Do you have referrals of electricians?
We don't, no.
Unfortunately, we can't do that.
But we can help you out. We can walk you through any questions and help you through it.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I think I might be last maybe. So everyone sit up nice and tall. We're almost done. Okay, so my name is Lenore Corey. A citizen asked me earlier how I got into the position that I'm in. I worked in education before, and then when I was a little bit older, I thought it would be super fun to become a firefighter. And so I was a volunteer at first, which was so great. I loved it. And then I ended up in my position that I'm in right now, which is amazing. It's the best of both worlds for me. So, and I get to work hand in hand with these guys because they encourage me and come with me on education stuff. And so it's fun. It's like going to work with all of your friends and your brothers. It's great. So a part of what I do, and my other coworker that is, I think you can see her maybe better over here, Kimberly, she's actually at a conference this week. Just like the firefighters, we have certifications that we have to keep up as well. And some of them are easily done, just going to a conference for a week and you can get a lot of stuff in those. So that's where Kimberly is. Otherwise she would be here. So I don't know how many of you can put a puppeteer on your resume because that's part of what I get to do in my job. So you can see down here our puppets. So in October, for 3 weeks, we do puppet shows at the fire station for preschools. A lot of Sandy-based preschool and daycares and joy schools and different things like that come, and we get to hang out with them and introduce our puppets to them, as well as Freddie. You can see Freddie coming out of the little hole right there in the middle. He's our little fire truck. He actually has his own YouTube channel. So if you'd like to check out some of Freddie's videos, that came about during COVID when we were looking for ideas to go virtually. And I was chatting about some things with Gerald Strebel, who works in our fire marshal's office. And, you know, it was kind of like we'd been throwing around some ideas and Gerald kind of said, why don't you do something with Freddie? And I was like, oh, why don't you do something? No, just kidding. I don't know how many of you love to be in videos where you talk, because I think my voice sounds differently than it does on a video. But we did several videos with him. My son is Freddie's voice, and so I appreciate that. But also with that, we started doing some virtual classrooms. And so if you go onto our website, we still have those up, virtual classrooms that we did for kids as young as 2 years old up to age 11. And we're going to do some more for the junior high and high school ages, but it's really interactive. And all of that came really about through COVID. I know there's so many negative things that happen with that, but there was also really positive things that happened with that. So we were able to keep going. We are in the schools. We start out, if an elementary school has a preschool, that's where we start. And we have a different program for each grade. We don't like to do a smorgasbord where we just throw everything at them. By the way, kids still think that if there is smoke in the room, they should stop, drop, and roll. So make sure you let all of the kids, no matter how old they are in your life, know that you only stop, drop, and roll if you are on fire. Thank you. So if there's smoke in the room, y'all just crawl low and get outside, okay? But we start as early as preschool, and we'll go through 5th grade, because it's 5th grade now in the junior highs. It used to be 6th grade. But we also go into the junior high and high schools and do career days. Chief always comes with us, which is awesome because the kids think that we're cool, but then when he gets to hang out, like hang out with the chief, super cool. So we really enjoy it. We also do a lot of community, just different community classes. Some of those that we do are our Junior Firefighter Academy, and we're so glad to be able to be doing that again this summer. So we have 2 dates that we do that. It's for kids aged 8 to 10. And I get asked all the time, how did we decide what ages? So we did a bunch of pilot ones at the very beginning and found out that kids 8 to 10 are really super excited about stuff. You get kind of like 11 and 12 and they're like, I know Freddie's not real. Like, excuse me? I don't know what you're talking about. So then at 12, they could become an assistant to us. So that feels cooler to them. So we have 2 of those in the summer. We also do babysitting classes, and we do those at least 4 times a year, sometimes more if we're able to fit that in. We run CPR classes every month. We have morning and evening classes. We also run what's called Cert. We have two of our Cert people here that are in our class right here. I get to see them again tomorrow night. It's very fun. Cert stands for Community Emergency Response Training. And basically it's if we had the big one, right? Which we almost had the big one. We kind of had one a couple of years ago, you guys. That was major for us, 5.7 earthquake, right? I was in California, so I didn't get to be in it, but we help you to know what you would do if first responders weren't available to you for a few days, like how you would deal with stuff. And it's way beyond just having food and water at your house. So we talk about that stuff and we have a good time. So we like to have fun. One of the big things that we also do is senior fall and fire classes. One of the calls we go on the most are falls. And so we'll come right into your home or right into your parents' home if they live here in Sandy. And we can actually like go throughout their house and help them realize that, you know, having a cord underneath a rug, that's a tripping hazard. That's not good. So talking about different things like that, we do presentations. We'll go into businesses and do different kinds of training. I know that Chief Larson was talking about some of the response that our guys do, our tactical response that our firefighters are going in to some of these active shooter situations. And we'll have PD come in and teach the people at a business or at a school, or we've gone to movie theaters and different things like that, how to handle an active shooter situation. And then we'll come in and teach those people, because in a sense, they're first responders for themselves at that moment, how to deal with a bleeding situation. So we'll talk them through what it is to control bleeding until that, you know, our trained first responders are there to help. So yeah, there's different things with businesses that we do. It's not just that. We'll do fire extinguisher training. We'll do CPR demonstrations. We teach to a lot of youth groups, all of those different things. But yeah, we kind of just really have the coolest job where we get to teach a lot and work a lot in the community. And yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any questions for me? I know I have a video that we're going to show, but I didn't know. Do I do questions after that?
Whatever you'd like.
I'd rather do questions first and then I'm going to sit down. Everything that I talked about is on our website though. If you have anybody that's interested in our babysitting classes or our junior firefighter academy, the applications are online that they can fill out and it comes directly to myself or Kimberly. And then any other information like our schedule for Cert or our schedule for CPR is all on the website. So, and my phone number and my email address. And my name's Lenore.
If we have a group of kids, can we organize a group of kids to come and visit?
So yeah, so we can schedule to have them come have a tour of the fire station. Yeah, and we'll have you go to the fire station that's closest to where you live, for sure.
And back on the table, we have a lot of this information that you can gather on your way out, the website, the classes we offer, those things. So make sure you stop at the table and get swag and stuff.
I'm Lenore. And I'm Kimberly. Here at the fire station, we love having fun. That's right.
Hey, don't forget about me. I'm the star of the show.
Oh, Brady, how could we?
last section is, it's about a culture. Our videographer Parker that I mentioned previously made another video that we did. It's kind of a cultural type video that we are making for safety. I'll just show that real quick before we get into our community questions and engagement. Might have to turn that volume up, Mike.
I ring the bell to be part of something bigger than just myself.
I ring the bell for safety.
I ring the bell for mental health and suicide prevention.
I ring the bell for physical fitness.
I ring the bell for pride. Pride in the uniform, pride in myself and my crew.
I ring the bell to stay focused out on the job.
I ring the bell for crew unity. We go out as a team, we come home as a team.
We ring the bell for cancer prevention.
We ring the bell
For public education.
We ring the bell for the citizens we serve.
During the heat of battle, it's critical that we be prepared. That's why I ring the bell for training.
I ring the bell for them.
I ring the bell for your safety.
Thank you again for being here tonight. This is just another reminder, if you wouldn't mind texting Sandy to 22333, if you haven't already, to get lined up for the interactive questions. Are we good with time to do that? Anybody say differently? Yes? Okay. So we have a few questions that we've added on here. If you're already signed into the poll everywhere by texting Sandy to 22333, then we can move to that. I think Nick and Carrie are getting switched over to that right now. And then we'll start with our first question. And then I believe we have an engine, an ambulance, the wildland truck, and some other equipment down outside, obviously, that we can kind of move around. Feel free to come up afterwards and look at some of the pictures and some of the equipment that's been shown, or go outside and see some of the larger apparatus and things that are out there. So as Chief Clayton mentioned, we also have a lot of information, gifts, things that you can take with you for information on the back tables, water, candy, and things like that. So, so the first question there, if you guys want to go ahead and just send in your text in your answers, A, B, C, D, or E. How many stations does the Sandy City Fire Department have? We talked about that at the beginning, so it should be 100%. 10 results. We're with 5. Does anybody want to go with 4? Will you, Eric, will you help her? So we have stations 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35. So yes, five stations that we have with Sandy City. Looks like we've had 18 responses on that. All right. I think we're slowing down on responses. We'll go to the next one. All right, this is gonna be a word cloud, so. Somebody already put in responses. Describe Sandy Fire Department in one word. Go ahead and text in one word. Looks like we've got, the more of the same word, the larger the letter is of that word. So it looks like dedicated, amazing are both several words, awesome. Somebody wrote excellent. Top chief or, oh, chief.
Okay, I did that one.
Well, they had top and chief right next to each.
She
Now,
did the top.
now they've moved apart. Dedicated, amazing, oh, handsome. We got a handsome in there. That's nice. We had a few more responses. This one you can text multiple times on this one. So thank you for those responses. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so out of the additional resources that the Sandy City Fire Department provides, which is the most valuable to you? Options are Cert classes, babysitting academy, CPR training and certification, school outreach and education, and business inspections. Looks like we've got school outreach and education leading. Oh, that was CPR, just evened it up. And all the information regarding these items and additional things that we provide, again, are on the back table, along with some smoke detectors for your own home, things like that that you can take with you. All right, should we go on to our next question? I think, is it our last or do we have two more? All right. Have you ever needed to call 911? We've got quite a few there with a yes. Some are unsure with no. So then the next question follows. If you did need to call 911, was it for a medical or a fire emergency? And as Chiefs Aston and Bullock mentioned, all of our personnel, every single one, have both fire and medical training. They all do, every single one of them. So they're ready to go either way, if it's fire call or if it's a medical call. So it looks like the majority, as would be expected, would be a medical emergency, because that goes right along with about the percentage that we respond on. I'd say around 83% of the calls we go on are medical and 17 to 20% are fire. So that goes right along with what we would expect. So I think that's it. Yeah.
Thanks, Chief. And everybody that participated, the crew that's down here tonight, thank you for coming down. This is out of station 34. So that's one over off the 7th East over by my house. And I hope they never have to come to my house, but I guarantee it eventually they will for some reason, right? A barbecue, right? Now I do have them over usually on the holidays for breakfast. So, but thank you for attending. Those online, thank you very much for being part of this. I think we had a good turnout online. I think the last time I was back there, we had about 25 between Facebook and Zoom. Is that about right, Carrie? Okay. Now we'll take some time for some questions if you have any, and we'll answer any that are here, and then we'll go to the online questions if there are. Anything that we haven't answered?
I would like to ask, you've done so much. Oh, I want to say I love you guys.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
I mean, this is amazing. I learned so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anyway, so what can we do for you?
Just support us.
What can we make your life easier?
Wow. How long do you have? How long do you have?
No,
Yeah.
I mean in your line of work.
It's just what the things we've talked about tonight, make sure your smoke detectors work. Make sure you know how to call 911. Make sure that your home is fire safe. Support, when I see you at council meeting every Tuesday, that is something, we're going to be talking about fire safety and the budget. And it's just the citizens getting involved with all the departments in the city, public works, public utilities, fire, police, parks. Being a good community member and knowing what is going on in the city is how you can help us and help the council when we're making difficult decisions, that you've got your input and just being part of the community. But helping the fire department, cookies, cakes, no, we get plenty of those. Can you tell? But no, just supporting us.
Chinese dumpling.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. So, and I'd be happy to, talk tomorrow or later about some other things, but it's just being part of the community and being here tonight shows that you are supporting the departments, all of the town halls that will be held. So Carrie, did we get any, and I wanted to thank Carrie, she's back there kind of running the Zoom meeting and all that. Nick from IT. If there's questions, if you'll just come forward or yell at them, yell me.
We just had some great comments like this last one, that very important, very interesting, informative presentation, wonderful use and knowledge of current technology and great efforts by all supporters.
So she's just reading back all the attaboys. Great job, amazing and good presentations, and no questions. Okay. Okay. And Mayor?
There was one question, what can citizens do to be prepared? What's your best advice for citizens to be prepared in their homes?
The CERT class, CPR classes. We've got amazing stories of our firefighters being out in public and doing CPR on somebody that they didn't know. But if you can take a CPR class, take the CERT training, because it was mentioned here, I think from Lenore, if there's an earthquake here, we hear about a 72-hour kit. There's a reason why, is because it's going to take 72 hours that you're probably going to have to deal with a lot on your own, because we're going to be so busy. So CERT, CPR, if you've got young children, get them in the babysitting classes, the youth classes that we offer. Those are some things that you can be, and we're happy to have you come to the stations at any time, and we'll give you more advice and station tours and fire safety. Stay away, skip a year, fireworks again, okay? Skip a year. It's gonna be a drought, and it's gonna just be a really dangerous year again.
So if you want to become a firefighter, what's the best way to do that? How do you get hired on?
So at the minimum, you have to have a high school be a high school or GED, and you have to have either a medical certification, either the EMT or the paramedic. We will do the rest. We'll train you on being a firefighter. It's very competitive. So we've got one spot open right now that we're testing, and we had over 130 applicants. So it's very competitive. Stay out of trouble. We do an extensive background check. So, but if anybody would like to learn more about the fire department, please just send an email or come by one of the stations. We'll be happy to answer questions, because we're always looking for good firefighters. And we've got, there's no female firefighters, but we do have female firefighters, and they do a great job. So it's open to everybody, even at my age. So I'm 38. Mayor?
Hey, I want to thank everybody for attending the town hall live and in person and online. Before we conclude the inside portion of tonight's presentation, I just want to congratulate Chief Klein. He's been fire chief for 8 years and does a tremendous job, as you've seen tonight, about motivating his staff, representing our city. And I know he won't tell this story, but recently he was down in St. George and had a little rescue of his own. And Chief Conakey, if you could come and tell a little bit, brag on our chief, because I know he won't tell it.
And my deputy firefighter was there with me, so she played part of it.
Chief Klein's life.
So I'm in a safe place now. Nothing I can say can be held against me, right? It's been, you can help me out. But a couple months ago, Chief Klein went down to St. George, and he enjoys cycling and biking, and he bought some new mountain bikes. And while he was down there, he got into a popular mountain biking area that was a little bit remote from the city down there, St. George. And about 4 miles in, he came across a mountain biker who had gone off a steeper portion, came off his bike, really injured his face, his head, his neck, and was pretty beat up, had some bruised and possibly broken ribs, and cycled up and let him know that he was medically trained, and against the injured person's wishes, he kind of started feeling around to do an assessment and was able to make contact with 911 and let him know who he was, that he was medically trained, and let them know that, hey, where we are is a little more remote, this kind of some serious injuries, and go ahead and just, what you need to do is send a helicopter, which they, knowing who he was, went ahead and did. And then with direction from Chief Klein, the St. George Fire Department was able to get over there to where he is and help them all load the patient onto the helicopter for transport to the hospital. When I wrote this story up originally, I put in there that Chief Klein even offered to fly the helicopter, but that was I stretched the truth just slightly there. So, anyways,
Well, if all our firefighters could come up here, so just in one, it'd be in view for all our friends online, so we could just give everyone out who's watching online a wave, and our council members too. We could invite you to come on up and give a wave to our friends online. And again, thank you everybody for supporting the town hall series. We've had a fire town hall tonight, our parks and recreation, police and public safety town hall. So this has been a really fun series here in Sandy City. And I hope everybody who's watching is learning some good things about the services our city is providing and how your tax dollars are going to work to serve you. So thank you all and have a great evening. Okay, thank you.
We'll be back at the back.
Thank you, guys.
The more you take, the less I have to take back.
there's two looking at mustaches.
And don't be your, I'm assuming it's the mask.